Hey everybody, more Life and Times with George Washington here. And we're now up to the period where the French have allied themselves with the Continental Army and the United States after the Battle of Saratoga. And the French alliance didn't just like put, Washington in charge, kind of the way, Eisenhower was in charge of the Allied Expeditionary Forces during World War II. It actually added a deal of complication to Washington's command. Now, French officers arrived with their own ranks, their own priorities, and their own instructions from the French Royal Army and France. And they were allies. They were not subordinates to the Continental Army. And that distinction mattered. It had weight. So Washington could not issue orders to French commanders. He had to negotiate. And so plans required, agreement amongst the allies. And so the timelines would depend on the consent of both sides. And that means operations moved at the pace of diplomacy. And then you have language barriers on top of that that continued to slow everything. Washington had some trouble with some French all the way back following Jumonville v. Glenn, but that's been a long time ago. Now, as a result, we have cultural expectations that end up clashing with each other. And then you have assumptions about rank and honor. All those things were different based on the culture. And so Washington had to make adjustments. He tended to listen more. He coordinated rather than commanded so much. And he learned when to insist and when to wait. Sometimes this restraint really frustrated American officers who wanted immediate action. Now, sometimes it irritated French allies who expected deference or clarity that Washington couldn't provide. So no one really fully controlled what was happening on this side of the war now. And, well, that was the price of the partnership. So Washington had to understand what the alliance offered: naval power, more money, and legitimacy. But he also understood the risk, because a single misstep could strain the relationship. And so he sided with caution. Now, this is not about delay, but it's about preservation, as it has been all along. And as Washington learned to share control with the French, the Revolution entered a new phase. And this is one where survival depended not just on holding an army together, but also navigating an alliance where authority had to be earned and shared and, well, constantly renegotiated.